Well, good evening, everybody. Big wave, big waves. There's waves out there. How's it going? If you don't know me, my name is Vincent Kelly. I am from Southeast Midlands, Kildare. And I've got a really, really good, in my opinion, webinar to give you tonight about self-confidence. And I feel it's going to really help you out. So I want to say, first of all, hello in backward sequence to the people on Facebook and YouTube and Instagram. So thank you very much for being here with me tonight to go over this data. And I've got everybody on Zoom in front of me, so I'll just say hello to you here. And there's still people coming in the waiting room. So we have Jennifer. Hi, Jennifer. Nadia. Deirdre. John. Audrey. And we'll call you 06984. Okay? That's what we're going to call you because I don't have a name to go with your number. Okay, but that's fine. You're now registered as 06984. So thanks a million, folks, for giving me your time tonight. Now, before I begin and to go into this data for you, this is live. So if you see me looking down, I've got some notes here just to kind of keep me on track in case I don't go off on a tangent talking about irrelevant things like I'm doing now. We're live. So normally on a live webinar, because you're out there looking at me, expecting some data, I want to find out from you where you're from, where you're logging in from. I just like to find out that. So we're going to just practice off with the first step of the webinar, and a webinar is usually an interactive thing. So I'm going to be asking you for some examples. You don't have to participate, but I'd like to ask you for some examples throughout the webinar, and you pop them into the chat. And then when they're in the chat, I'll be able to see them because I have you all directly here in front of me. So if you don't mind, pop into the chat where you're logging in from. I'm interested to see where you are. Are you in Ireland, England, Scotland, Wales, America, Honolulu, Hawaii, China, Israel, Mozambique, South Africa? Where are you from? Jennifer, Ireland. Where in Ireland, Jennifer? What part? Give me a location. I need more than Ireland because I'm in the middle of it myself. Deirdre from Kerry. Hi, Deirdre. Good to have you. But anyway, hello, Jennifer from Ireland. Good to have you. Deirdre from Kerry. Okay. Where else are you from, people? Mohammed from England. Fantastic. Oh, yes, Audrey. You are from Kildare and you're near me. That is correct, Audrey. Great, great. It's a lovely part of the world down in Kildare. Yes. I was just going to say the sights to see in Kildare, but I think Kildare Village is one of them. And the Curragh, if anybody wants to go to the Curragh, it's very nice. Nice and flat, lots of sheep. Okay, Audrey. Jennifer from Dublin. Hi, Jennifer. Good to see you. Mr. Galaxy or Mr. or Mrs. Galaxy A51, you're from Mayo. Thank you so much for joining us from the other side of the country. I'm based in Dublin here at the moment, originally from Kildare. Okay, folks, thank you so much. That's absolutely brilliant. Nice to see a good spread of people. So we're all over Ireland and the UK at the moment. Now, basically, I do that because sometimes if we get people from America or from other parts of Europe, I might not be as, let's say, fluid with my language. So I generally tend to be a bit more kind of formal when I'm dealing with people who are from other countries. But anyway, I can relax. It's cool. Okay, so let's launch straight into this. To let you know at the beginning of this, just at the start, okay, my webinars are based off this book called Dianetics. Dia means through, netics means the mind, through the mind. And the title here is The Modern Science of Mental Health. That's what this is. And it was written by this gentleman. His name is L. Ron Hubbard. Okay, now this gentleman also developed another subject, which is a separate subject called Scientology, which means the study of knowledge. So some people ask me, are they connected? And I always say, yes, they are. So if you have any question about the two different subjects or how they're connected, send a message to the host, and Mandeep, and she will answer your questions, okay? Because I get that a lot. Is it this, is it that? But anyway, the webinar tonight is primarily based on this book here because this is the thing that I've been involved with since 1992. And this is one of the main key reasons why I'm here tonight is to help you out with this stuff, okay? The promise tonight is to give you a couple of basics that you may or may not already know, which need to get emphasis, and then to go into the root. And for anybody who's been at my webinars before, you'll know that I go towards a certain root, just to drum it home that this particular root is responsible for lack of confidence, stress, problems with emotions, all sorts of different things. So I'm going to go over that with you directly. Okay, so stay around at the end, until the end, if you don't mind. We're going to be going right just about until 9 o'clock. Because at the end, I've got a little set of workshops which I want to present to you, tell you about. And yeah, I can't tell you now because it would ruin the surprise. If you have your television on at this moment while you're watching the webinar, or if you're also watching another video along with Vincent's video, would you mind turning off the other video first? Because I want your full attention. I'm so greedy like that. I just want all your attention. No, but seriously, I just want to make sure that you take the time to get this data for yourself. You deserve it. This is only for you. It's not for anybody else. It's not to entertain you. It's just to give you some help, because life can be tough out there when you're running into these problems of confidence, stress, emotional stuff, and all that kind of stuff, you know. It's for you. Okay? So just turn off the Spotify and whatever else is going on, but not Facebook if you're watching me on Facebook, of course. All right. Now, again, a little bit of background. I've been doing this since 1992. I came across this in Germany. I've been trained in Dianetics for many, many years. I have been delivering seminars and webinars and introducing people to this subject all over the country for a very long time. And I would say I know a fair deal, okay, about this subject. And so for any of you who have any questions, please feel free to pop them into the chat as we're going along. Or I'm going to be doing a question and answer at the very end, so you can ask me any questions that you want then. All right? Quick story about myself and how because I usually try to find out if I'm going to deliver a webinar to you, I'm going to tell you how it relates to me, okay? So when I was a kid, I mean, look, this whole webinar on self-confidence is important, and it's important to relate to it as well, because let's be honest, who wouldn't want natural self-confidence? Who wouldn't want that? I'm not asking you to answer, but don't put your hands up, okay? In case you're wondering, don't put your hands up for that. I think we can all agree that we all want natural self-confidence, not fake self-confidence, or I'm great, I can do anything, but someone asks you to drive a car and you can't do it. Or I'm the most confident person in the room, but in actual fact, the truth is you're afraid to talk to people. So we're not talking about pretended confidence. We're talking about natural self-confidence. And I'm going to go over that with you in a few minutes. So my own little story. I've got many, many stories about self-confidence about others. But for me personally, when I was a kid, up to, I would say, about 12, I was generally very self-confident. And my family, if you were to ask any of them, my parents or brothers and sisters, my dad's passed away, but if you were to ask any of them, they would say I was very stubborn. Because I didn't see it as a bad trait. I knew what I wanted. I was confident in getting it, and I would just go for it. You know, I wasn't doubting myself. I wasn't wondering, oh, Vincent, can you really do these things? Do you really think you'd be any good in school? I wasn't like that. I was more like, you know, I'm either interested or I'm not, and that's it. Okay? Now, when I got to the teenage years, obviously when you hit puberty, you get interested in girls and all that type of stuff. But there was a couple of things happened to me. One of them was the trauma of moving into secondary school out of the comfort of primary and all this type of stuff. And it can be pretty traumatic when you're a guy moving into secondary. You have to be kind of tough. And I just wasn't that tough. And I got knocked a fair deal directly and indirectly. So I was being influenced a lot in terms of getting knocked down. I also had a fair few things happen to me which were not very pleasant. And I became very much more shy. And I just lost my confidence in myself. Now, even though I'm on this webinar tonight, and you might think, oh, Vincent's doing the webinar on self-confidence, he must be hugely confident and so forth. And yes, I do have confidence. But also, if you asked me to fly a plane, I would be up to tell you, listen, I have no clue how to do that. I'm not confident in flying a plane. All right? So there's certain areas I'm definitely confident, and certain areas I'm just not. It's as simple as that. And also, I would consider myself more on the introverted side than extroverted. I wouldn't be the life and soul of the party, but at the same time, I don't kind of doubt myself. So during this teenage period, because of lack of confidence, because of shyness, because of just being overly introverted, I had trouble, missed opportunities, didn't join football teams, didn't join basketball, which is what I love to do. I just missed out on opportunities working, earning money, part-time jobs, just general stuff like that. And the more opportunities I missed and I didn't go for, it made me feel more and more introverted and lacking in confidence. So it went on a downward spiral, okay? Now, before I tell you the good news on that story, I want to find out from you, what is your reason for clicking into this webinar tonight? Would you mind popping that in the chat for me? What I want to find out is, and look, you don't have to put in huge specifics, but I just want to find out from you, what is the area of your life that you lack confidence in the most? Is it work? Is it relationships? Is it your goals? What is the area that you lack confidence in? And if it's not about you and you're here to help somebody else, what is the area that you want to help them with confidence in? Is it just general confidence, or is it to do with work, relationships, family, traveling, business? What is the area? Okay, so that's your first question of the night. Well, second, what is the area of your life that lack of confidence is affecting you personally? If you don't mind popping in the chat, I would be most grateful. Okay, I'm just going to pop up a couple of examples here. We have relationships. Okay, relationships, we'll just put that in. Thank you. Galaxy A51. Deirdre, general advice in everyday life. Okay, so work and general. Okay, excellent. Thank you very much. Deirdre, brilliant. Work, I'm great at my job, but still lack confidence. It doesn't make sense. Fantastic. Work again. Thank you. Excellent. John, relationships. Okay, very good. Navigate. Decisions. Good. All right. Make a note of this. Okay, so we've got relationships, work, general, just here to remind myself, and then decisions. Anybody else have anything? Audrey shared a very similar story to myself. Honestly, I worked with media for years, could talk to crowds so easy, but I'm terrified to drive. No confidence there. Can't figure out how it could be. Okay, very good. Thank you very much, Audrey. So good with people, but driving. Okay. Very good. Okay, we're going to go over this. Folks, thank you so much. Now, for me, there's a couple of things that I'm going to introduce you to that really helped me with my confidence in terms of a practical do-it-in-life basis, okay? But really and truly, what handled it for me was this stuff, Dianetics, and the therapy that's explained in it, which I'm going to go over with you in the second half of this webinar, okay? When I handle this stuff, I got my natural confidence back. I became much more myself. All during my teenage years, I was always wondering, I should be like somebody else. I should be like that confident person over there. I wish I was like my uncle blah, who's so good at blah. I wish I was like my friend in school, who's always so good talking to the girls. I wish I was like this guy who's so good in sports. So I was always comparing myself to other people, and always kind of knocking myself, well, I'm not as good as this person, is not as good as that person, and always trying to be like somebody else. But that's not really the way. Of course, you can copy other people's actions that are successful, but really and truly, you should really be yourself. And what I gained from this is just the ability to just be myself. And whatever confidence level comes with that is what comes with it. And that can be developed upon. So in other words, I don't have to fake it. I don't have to pretend like I'm somebody I'm not. People that know me will tell you, Vincent's Vincent. and that's it. He's just himself. He has his own ideas about things. I don't agree with certain things, and I don't disagree with other things. I've got my own viewpoints on things, and it's so important just to have your own viewpoint in life. Okay, and so since I've cleared up all that stuff, honestly, confidence has really, really improved in all sorts of areas for years. Okay, so anyway, last one, Jennifer. As the adopted, so I feel like I've always found it difficult to be myself when I don't know parts of who I am. Okay, very good. So let me just pop that in, Jennifer. Okay. So we'll just put in knowing of self. Okay, knowing self. And it's a good point, actually, Jennifer. I'm glad you brought it up because it's really related to what I just mentioned. Because if you don't know yourself, and if you don't know who you are and what you like and you don't like and what your standards are and what you accept and what you don't accept, you're just going to get blown along like a leaf, and it's going to cause confusion. Second part of the webinar is going to click in there, Jennifer. Okay. So I'm going to go over a couple of practical things that I'm not going to spend a lot of time on, but I want to mention them because they are valid when it comes to confidence. All right. And so before I do, I want to mention to you the source of the word confidence, okay, so that you know when what we're talking about here. Anybody who's been at my webinars, you'll know in school I studied Latin, which I actually really liked. This word comes from Latin, con, and con just means with, or it also means it intensifies the next word that comes after. In other words, it makes it bigger, okay? And this word comes from fidere, okay, which basically means to trust, okay? So when you have confidence in something, like your car, you trust your car to bring you from A to B. If you trust your friend not to tell everybody your secrets, then you've got confidence in them, okay? If you, if you trust an employee to do the job, you have confidence in them, okay? So then from this, we can work out what self-confidence is. Exactly, and you've already realized it's to trust yourself. So when we're looking at confidence, we're looking at the single question: do you trust yourself or don't you? When you say I trust myself, you're thinking this: you know what, I can do this. I can do this. Or if you don't know how to do it, you're still saying, you know, I can learn to do this. So I can either do this or I can learn to do this. And that's what we talk about trusting self. But if you think, you know what, I can't do this and I'm not able to do this and I would never be able to do that, you're not really trusting yourself. So when we talk about trust, this is going to be the central theme in this webinar, is how do we increase your trust of yourself in those different areas. You mentioned about driving, your trust of yourself in relationships to make the right decisions, to say the right thing, your trust in work and driving and so forth, and just general trust of self. That's where the word comes from. Self-confidence means trusting yourself. Okay? So that's that. So let's look at a few of the major points here. And by the way, I want to just, because I don't want this to be a webinar where I just talk. As you see, I ask people for examples, and I appreciate you all for helping me with the examples. Did I put down yours, Nadia, which is decisions. Okay. I appreciate you participating, and I'd like to continue that. So at the end of each section, I might just ask you a little question, pop your answer into the chat. It kind of gives me feedback, and it helps me to interact with you on the webinar, because we're not seeing each other. We're all here digitally. I mean, you're all live out there, but we're communicating through a kind of a computer screen. So it's a bit kind of sort of artificial, but it's not really. Okay, number one. Okay, competence. All right. Competence, if somebody is competent, they have the skill and the knowledge to get something done. So a person could be competent in driving. He knows how to drive. He can drive backwards. A person can be competent in public speaking. They know how to do it. They've done it for years. It's easy for them. A person could be competent in handling their children. In other words, they know exactly how to do it, what time to get them to bed, how to feed them, how to, all the kind of basics. So competence basically means knowledge, okay, and skill. So each one of you on this webinar, you are confident in certain areas of your life, okay? So the first thing to know is that any of those areas that you're not confident in, this is a tool that you can use in order to be confident, okay? And those ingredients of confidence, and we're not going to get into this too much, the ingredients of competence are A, study. Now, none of us want to go back to school. Well, my school experience wasn't fantastic, I'll be honest with you. I have to say, I had good teachers with good intentions, but personally, I didn't feel that I learned a huge amount of life stuff. I learned English and a few things. I learned Latin as well, which helped me. So there were a few things I did learn, but overall, I could have learned a lot more. So if you ask me today if I want to go back to school, I would be telling you no, I won't be doing it. However, if you want to become good in anything, you're going to have to learn the basics on study, okay? And there's a course, if anybody has any trouble studying, you can send Mandeep a message afterwards, because there's a course that we do to teach people how to study properly so that the information goes in. I tell you, if I had this data when I was in school, I don't know, it would have made a huge, huge difference, but at least I learned it. I learned it when I was 19, and it really has made a massive, massive difference. So you have to learn how to study properly, so that the information goes in and you learn it and you don't get bored or lose interest, okay? B is practice, okay? So for example, if you're driving a car, the first thing is to learn about the car. And in my opinion, it's not enough just to learn, okay, how to turn the steering wheel, how to turn the indicators, the rules of the road. You actually have to learn a bit about the car too. Pull up the bonnet, have a look in there, check the oil stick, get your hands dirty, open the boot, take off the wheel of the car, put it back on, these things properly, of course. But, get in there and get your hands dirty, because all that is like studying physical contact. And so for people who have trouble driving or learning how to drive, one of the first things I do is get them to get in touch with their car a bit of, even if they touch the car, open the bonnet, smell it, clean underneath it, find out where does this cable go, okay? Now, part of that blends in with this one, practice. So when you're practicing anything, whether it's driving or public speaking or whatever you're doing in your job, you want to become a manager, you're going to practice. Just like somebody in here, we have lots of Irish dancing classes in our place here. People come in and do Irish dancing, but they practice heavily before they perform, okay? And so the only tip I give you here is just practice under somebody who already is skilled. So you're going to be practicing under the watchful eye of somebody who's a good driver or a good mother or a good manager, somebody who knows what they're doing, somebody who is successful, okay? So that's practice. And then point C is then the natural follow-on is experience. And this is where we get people doing internships or some mentoring. So you're going to get experience under the watchful eye of somebody who knows what they're doing and who's very successful. I wouldn't look to get experience under somebody who is unsuccessful. So for example, if you want to become confident in running your own business, then you need to get experience under somebody who is genuinely successful in that business. If you want to get experience driving a car, well, you get a car driver who is good, and not just any old learner driver person. Some from these driving schools, sometimes they're great, and sometimes they're not great teachers. They're good at what they do, but they don't teach properly. So the ingredients of competence are study, practice, and experience. And you've all told me tonight some of the areas, well, a couple of you have, but you don't have to kind of think about this right now, but just, you don't have to write it down, I mean, just have a think about an area of your life that you are confident in. And you will find that you are also competent in that area. You're good at it. You know what you're doing. Now, there is something that ruins this. Even when you're very good at management or very good at driving, you could still be nervous. So there is something which ruins it, and that's what I'm going to go over in the second part. Okay? So it's very important, if you want to become competent or confident in any area of your life, that you do the study bit, the practice, and the experience. Don't stay away from the study bit. Don't withdraw from it just because you had a bad experience in school or in college. There's basics that you can learn. They are quite easy to learn, and they will make a massive, massive difference. So contact us afterwards if you have any questions on that. So that's the first one, okay? Competence. Now the second and third one I'm going to touch off. I'm not going to spend too much time really on it. The second one is communication. Okay. Now, and communication skill. This is vital. So it's vital to be able to maintain good communication in all sorts of circumstances, not just in your job or not just in your relationship. Okay? If you have good communication skills and you've learned communication properly, it's going to help you to develop a relationship, or to become a successful manager, or to communicate with anybody about anything. And there are basics that you need to know. Again, it's not, I mean, I could do a whole webinar on this particular subject. I just want to mention it here again, and this is not really a plug for myself and what we do here, but we do have a communication course which shows you the basics of communication. But aside from that, even if you practice your communication skills by joining, I don't know, an acting class, or, you know, I don't know, some community activity where you had to get involved, it would really, really help. So you should definitely get yourself involved in things in which people are involved, not just video games, you know, not just sitting down watching telly or talking to the same person all the time. Okay, so that is very important. Now I want to ask you a question. Okay, so I want you to think about somebody in your life who's very good at communicating. Just think about somebody in your life who is very good at communicating. And I want to ask you this question. Do you think that person is also confident? Would you mind putting it in the chat? Let me know who you thought of. Is it a friend, a boss, a family member? And just yes or no if you think the person is confident or not. Okay? Because even though some people say, well, look, I'm very good at communicating. I think one person, I think Audrey might have said, communicating groups is fine, but then terrible confidence in other areas, and that can apply. But it's a huge asset to have good communication skills. So just think about somebody that you know or that you've known who's very good at communicating. Pop it into the chat for me and just let me know if that person is also appears to you to be confident, because honestly, the more able they are to communicate, the more confident they are in a great deal of areas in life. Maybe some areas not, but in a great deal of areas of life, okay? So if we just pop that in, that will be fab. Okay, yeah, okay, John, thank you. Audrey, your husband can throw him anywhere. Wonderful, absolutely. And see, this is it. Somebody with good communication skill can literally be thrown in anywhere and they'll get along with it, even if they haven't a clue about what they're supposed to be doing. Because they're able to communicate, they can learn pretty quickly and they can adapt. So it's really, really good to have that communication skill. Thank you, Audrey. Okay, Deirdre, your sister is a good communicator, but not confident overall. Very good. Okay, we're going to go into the root of that in a minute, Deirdre. Thank you. Sean, yeah, I know someone who's excellent communication skills but too confident for his own good. Yeah, I understand that. I've seen that before. But honestly, what I've seen on that, Sean, is that a person who appears to be a good communicator, in other words, they can talk, because remember, communication is not just one way. They can talk, 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 talk. So it looks like they're communicating. But in actual fact, when it's their time to listen, they can't do it. So from your perspective, you might say this person is a great communicator. But when it comes to you communicating back, they're absolutely terrible. In other words, they don't listen. So communication has to be a balanced flow. Okay? It has to be two-way. And again, there are things that you can learn to improve that skill. Okay, thanks very much, Sean. Nadia, I can communicate easily and mix. That's fantastic, Nadia. Brilliant. Great. Galaxy A51, fair journalist, great at public speaking, but not hugely confident, excellent communication skills, but it's showing me inner lack of personal confidence. Got it. Okay, thank you. We're going to go over this in a minute. Lorraine, I find I'm confident communicating when I have it scripted, prepared in advance, but not so good off the cuff. Good. And Lorraine, I just give you a little tip on that because I've been presenting a lot in webinars and seminars and so forth a lot. The thing to do is to basically practice it beforehand, and it really does iron it out, Like I practice my webinars before I do them because I know exactly what I want to say to people. But if you're trying to do it off the cuff with no preparation, it's like somebody going and performing an Irish dance on an Irish dancing competition, but they didn't bother practicing the night before. It's tricky. But I understand what you mean. Even when you've practiced, sometimes it's difficult. But anyway, we'll go over that. Yes, Sean, not a great listener at all. And so you wouldn't call that person a great communicator, unfortunately, because it's two-way, So thank you. Good, so that's the second one. Now, I'm running a bit too far into the main bulk, so I want to touch off the very last thing. I just want to mention this to you. We're not going to get into it in too much detail, but it's a very important thing to mention. And this is number 3, which is, I'm going to put it down as the exact word that we use in Dianetics, suppression. Okay, to suppress means to push down. Suppression is pushing down. So if you have somebody in your life who wants to push you down, they're going to be doing what we call suppression. Now, people can put you down and push you down in all sorts of ways. Very directly, by doing bad things to you, doing bad things against you, and trying to squash you. Okay, that can be very direct, but can also be very indirect, slagging you, making jokes about you behind your back, telling you, oh, you know what, you bought a lovely dress. Oh, it's great. Where did you buy the dress? You got it in pennies. Oh my God. Wait till I show you the dress I got now in Brown Thomas. What do you think of it? Just very subtle. So all I want you to do on this one here is just watch out for people who use comments directly or indirectly to try and cut you. And you'll usually find that you've been cut because afterwards you're not going to feel good. For some reason, you've just had a conversation with this person and now you want to hit the pub because you feel like 4 bottles of vodka all of a sudden. So this is something I ran into as a teenager, and you will run into in everyday life. If you want to do anything positive, if you want to build your life, in fact, every person on this webinar, you are all here because you want to improve your life. As soon as you start improving it, as soon as you start telling others, you know what, I want to be bigger, I want to do something different, I want to help people, I want to build a better world or build a big business, you're going to attract people who want to put you down. It'll only be a small percentage, and it'll be direct or indirect. So all I want you to do is watch out for it. Again, there's another course that we do on that. It's to help you detect that kind of stuff. And but it's really important because it can affect your confidence without you even realizing it. In other words, you could be in your job, right? And you know exactly how to do your job. You're great at your job. You know exactly what you're doing. You're a manager. Okay? However, there's an employee friend that you hang around with, and they just subtly cut you to pieces, cut by talking about other people behind their backs, by just manipulating you. And it can ruin your confidence. So it's a major thing to look out for. Okay, now, however, so these things are all fine in theory and things that you can work on. And in fact, we do stuff to help people with those individual things, particularly study, communication skills, and dealing with spotting people who suppress you and being able to deal with it. However, there is a major thing which is going to stop you from doing any of these things. Okay? It's a major thing, and it is the point of my webinar tonight, and it is the number one thing that you need to handle, you need to learn about. And I'll tell you exactly what it is. Okay. So anyway, what I'll do is I'll just pop these over here. So we have competence. Okay. And then we have communication. We'll just put it as com. And number 3, we have suppression. Okay. So you just keep those in mind. Those are things that are absolutely valid things that you need to keep an eye on. Okay. Now, this is the most important thing to handle, because I could teach you how to study. I could teach you how to communicate well. I could teach you how to handle suppression and live a better life. But if you wake up in the morning and you just don't feel like it, or you're in a bad mood, or you're stressed out, these are going to go out the window. You're not going to bother studying. You won't care about communicating properly. And you let people walk all over you if you don't handle this next thing. And this next thing has to do with you and your past. Okay? There's you. And you have a past. And that past is a record of everything that happened to you. And you are carrying around that past. And that past we call the mind. And it's basically a whole accumulation of pictures. So if you have a photo album at home, it gives you pictures of everything that happened to you. Oh, little pictures of me when I was a baby. Oh, look at that. Oh, there's my birthday party when I was 10. Oh, look at that. That's when I caught a fish in the river, and so forth. So you're able to look back over your photo album. But in actual fact, you are also carrying around a massive photo album, which we call the mind. And it's a collection of pictures from your past. And this part of your mind, this mind, is something that you use to make decisions about your future. Okay? And those decisions are based on 2 statements. Either the thought, I can, or I can learn, and that means confidence. So, based on your thinking, you determine, you know what, I can do this. I learned how to bake a cake. Somebody wants me to bake a cake. I can bake a cake. Okay? So instantly, if your mind is in good shape and you're able to remember things and you learn things, you're going to be of this attitude of, I can. Even if you never learned to bake a cake, right? You still have a record of times that you did learn things, and so you can still come out with the idea, you know what? I'm being tasked with this job of baking a cake. I can learn how to do this. And that is confidence. I can learn how to do this. So if you're thinking and if your mind is in really good condition, it's in good shape, your thinking is going to be positive, and that is going to result in confidence. So for example, I'll give you the examples in a minute because I have them. I prepared 2 of them, but I'll tell you in a minute. Okay, so now I want to just say something at this point, because as soon as I start talking about the mind, people start going into all this thing on the brain, you know, the whole brain theory, and is the mind in the head, and there's a chemical imbalance this and a chemical imbalance that. I want to just tell you what my stance is on stuff, okay? I'm not a great believer in labels. I'm going to make up a few, just so I don't stand on anybody's toes, okay? He's got too much checking the taps disorder. Joe has expressive confidence with a hint of introversion disorder. Mick has worries too much on a Saturday night disorder. And Joe has fear of bicycles disorder. Okay? The reason I don't like those labels is because they tend to package people into these categories, and usually the people that are giving those labels recommend a pill to go with it. And I'm not a fan of the whole pop a pill, make it all better, because their theory, the people who recommend this, is that it's all based on a chemical imbalance in your brain. And honestly, even since before I got into this, I didn't agree with this whole theory, you know. What you're going to learn tonight is the most traditional method of getting to the root of lack of confidence, which has been with us for thousands of years, all right? Before the invention of all this chemical imbalance theory and the whole slap a label on him, slap a label on whatever he has, you know. Vincent touches his head occasionally to check his hair. Let's give him hair checking disorder. And you know what? That's a problem, you know. So I don't like these labels at all, okay? And I'm not going to label you, and we're not going to discuss the brain, because I don't believe that all the memories from your past are stored in a lump of meat inside a skull. I just don't think it's possible with the amount of memories you have. So a little test before we go on. Just try to remember a birthday party that you were at. Just take a moment to do that. Try to remember a birthday party that you were at. Okay, now let me know in the chat with a simple yes or a no if you could remember it. Just say yes or no. Just type it in if you don't mind. Yes, I was able to remember a birthday party, or no, I wasn't able to remember a birthday party. Pop it into the chat. I just want to see if you can do it. John, yes. Galaxy A51, yes. Deirdre, yes. Lorraine, yes. Anybody else able to remember a birthday party? You can say no if you want. I don't mind. Nadia, yes. Okay, if I missed anybody, I'll come back. Okay. What you remembered there was one of these. You just had a look into your mind. You went, oh yeah, no. That thing actually exists. It's a picture. We can't see it physically, but it's there because you were able to see it as soon as you looked at it. It's not imaginary. It's not your imagination. It's a picture. It exists. That's what we call the mind. So, if your mind is in really good shape, you're going to make very good decisions. You're going to be able to think clearly, and your confidence is going to be up. Now, why is it then that even when you know what you're doing in your job, you know how to handle people who put you down, you know how to communicate, why is it that you are still doubting yourself? Why is it that you have negative thoughts about yourself? Or you think, you know what, I'm not good enough. I don't think I'm ever going to make it. I don't think I'm a good person in life. Why is that? And the reason is this. Normally, everything that you have learned has been stored there because of some experience that you had and you learned things. Okay, that's fine. So all the information went in there. Okay, great. Now, the problem is two specific types of things that happened. We're getting there. We're getting to that exact point, Lorraine. When you are exposed to, or when you experience intense physical pain, like you bang your hand with a hammer, or you fall down the stairs, or somebody mugs you and throws you on the road and you bang your head, or you fall off your bike, or you're in a car crash, or you're knocked down by a bus. When you are hit by a huge amount of physical pain, temporarily the lights go out and you can't remember what happened. Even if it's just for a split second, or it could be a minute, it could be 2 minutes, it could be 5 minutes when you're unconscious. So you can't remember what happened. So does that mean that what happened wasn't recorded? No. Even though you can't remember what happened to you, it was still recorded. Your ears didn't switch off, your senses didn't switch off, it's just you can't remember it. Now, I know this might seem bizarre. What's this got to do with confidence, Vincent? But you'll see in a minute. If you're exposed to huge amounts of physical pain, the lights go out. However, there is a recording kept of what happened to you. And it's stored in a part of your mind, which in Dianetics we call the reactive mind. I'll tell you why it's called reactive in a minute. The second type of thing that happens to you is emotional pain. And when we're talking about emotional pain, we're specifically talking about loss. If you lose somebody close to you, a friend, a family member, if your parents break up, or you lose a child, or you fail an important exam, or you fail your driving test for the 5th time, or you're fired from your job. These losses can have a huge impact. Can turn the lights out, not fully, but maybe dim the lights. And then in the reactive mind are stored bunches of these and bunches of these. I'll give you an example in a minute, but the reason it's called reactive is because it is not under your control. In other words, it's a push button part of your mind. All it takes is something in your environment that you see that matches up with something that happened to you back here to trigger it off again. Let me give you an example or two, and then I'm going to ask you for an example of one thing that triggers you, okay? So let's say we had a guy who was mugged, okay? So he had physical pain. He was mugged, all right? By a gang of people, and they were all wearing red jackets, okay? A gang of people all wearing red jackets, great. And this happened to him every day for a week when he was 10. Okay, so he's moved on, but the impact was there because he was physically beaten. Okay, so it's in there, stored. He doesn't remember half of it because they bet him up against the wall. Now, 20 years later, he's in a boardroom meeting. Everything's going fine. Great. But 2 people walk in with the same red color jackets or similar red color jackets. And what's happening, without the guy even realizing it, he sees these jackets, but he doesn't realize it, but there's enough similarity here. I'm making this up, right? It might be a combination of different factors. But he sees these jackets, and it triggers off this incident underneath the surface. So what's happening then is the reactive mind starts affecting his thinking and tries to steer him away from that scenario. So he's in the boardroom meeting. There's 2 people with jackets, and all of a sudden, he's getting stressed out. Something is telling him to get out of that boardroom meeting. And then the thoughts come in. I don't feel like I can do this. And he doesn't know where those thoughts are coming from. Why? Because they are buried in a package which we call the reactive mind. Take another example. Let's say you lose somebody close to you. You've gone out with a guy and he leaves you for somebody else. All right? Massive, massive loss happened to you 10 years ago, let's say. All right? Now you're trying to get into a new relationship. Okay? And you've been trying to get into a new relationship for ages. But every time you approach a new guy, your reactive mind reminds you, remember what happened last time. And it's all happening underneath the surface. How do I know this? I know this because when you start digging for this stuff, you'll find it. And when it's cleared, the stuff just doesn't happen again. These reactions don't happen because they're just not even part of you. So what are you saying, Vinny? What I'm saying to you is this. The root of your lack of confidence is something that you're not aware of. Because if you were already aware of it, you would have done something about it. The thing that you're not aware of is a buried package of incidents that you are carrying around with you that have been shoved way underneath. But they're still affecting you. They're still affecting your thinking and your emotion without your consent. It is the reason why you don't understand why you get so nervous around certain people. You don't understand why is it that I'm really good in my job, but yet I'm not confident in other areas. It doesn't make sense. I know I can do this, so why am I always doubting myself? The reason you're doubting yourself is because you don't know why. And the reason you don't know why is because there's a whole pile of buried stuff affecting your thinking without you even knowing it. And it is the primary reason why your thinking goes a bit irrational. That's a lot to take in. Now, let me just ask you for an example of this. As I mentioned, this reactive mind is a trigger part of the mind. Sometimes you'll be aware that external things trigger you off, and sometimes you won't. All right? You'll just feel bad, but you don't know why. Or you feel nervous, but you don't know why. Or you feel lack of confidence, but you don't know why. And the don't know why is exactly the point. You don't know why because it's buried and it has to be dug up and handled. So now, next practical exercise. What I want you to do is think of something in your life that triggers you off and brings your confidence down. In other words, there are days when you feel confident, okay? I know there are. There are days when each one of you feels confident. You know what? I feel good today. I feel like I can take on life. It's a good day. Give me one thing that knocks that confidence down. One thing that presses your button and causes you to lose confidence. Pop it into the chat if you don't mind. One example. And then I'm going to go over to you very briefly what you do about it. So give me an example of one thing that triggers you off, that causes you to lose confidence. Whereas before you were confident and now you're not confident. Is it the way somebody looks at you? Is it a certain place that you visit? Is it like, bad drivers on the road? Is it your teacher, your partner, your neighbor? One example of something that triggers you off and makes you lose confidence in yourself. Pop it into the chat if you don't mind. You can think of one. And hello to Mbule. Good to see you. And Annie. So a lot of people came in there, the back door. Anybody have any examples at all? Okay, Mbule, yeah. I picked on you deliberately, it must have been. Okay. People horning you when you're driving makes me feel afraid to drive. Great example. The fact is, you know how to drive. Okay, if somebody beeps at you, you should be able to continue driving and it should be grand. But what happens is that beeping triggers something, and then all of a sudden you feel afraid, but you don't want to be afraid or you don't want to be stressed out. But why are you doubting yourself when you know you shouldn't be? And what's happening here is there's a part of your mind not under your control. It is affecting you without your permission. Your thoughts are not under control, and that's affecting your confidence. So thank you. Deirdre, speaking in public, I had a mild stutter as a child, worked on myself and overcame it. Fantastic. Terrified of speaking in larger groups. Good. And Deirdre, another good example. It could be the case that seeing the groups of people triggers off some loss of communication in the past, right? It could be literally anything. But when you peel off these things, you find out what's the exact thing at the bottom of it. Okay? Very good. Thank you. Good. Audrey, I've listened to you, Miss Musset. Our taxi hit a man on the way to work. He died in front of me. Wow. In Holland. Cut out of the car at 19 in another. So I'm terrified it continues. And now, yeah, I got it. Okay. So yeah, it's a big loss, you know, a traumatic experience. You see something similar happening again, or your kids running out in front of the road, triggers the whole thing, and it comes in whether you like it or not. It's not under your control. Okay? Brilliant. Thank you, Audrey. Lorraine, in a presentation, if I'm asked a question I don't know the answer to. Great. That's a really, really good example, Lorraine. Obviously, you have to be prepared for presentations, but you're always going to get asked a question that might just throw you. But the fact is that, you know, it shouldn't necessarily stress you out or whatever, you know, and there is the reactive mind element and there is the practice element in that as well. So thank you. Very good. Mohammed, other people's harsh words. Very good. And their only ability is the ability to push your buttons. I've mentioned that in other webinars. Brilliant example. John, people calling you fat or not fit. Okay, and even if they do, you should be able to go, thanks a million for your opinion. God bless you. Now be on your way. Anything positive to say to me? No. Thank you. I love myself anyway. And I'm proud of myself. Okay? So this is the key problem. If that isn't handled, you're going to have trouble improving your competence, improving your communication skill, and handling people who put you down. That has to be handled because your buttons will constantly get pressed and this stuff will affect your mind and your thinking. All right? Now, briefly, I'm going to tell you now about the solution. Okay? And as I mentioned at the beginning, this webinar is based on the book Dianetics. So for the next couple of minutes, I want to just tell you what I have put together to show you what the solution is to this. And in Dianetics, it's a very exact therapy that is done with 2 people. And the purpose of it is to find these things, to clear them up completely using an exact procedure and get to the root, because these things are on chains and that you have to get to the root of the issue. Okay, so the solution is a therapy which is done with 2 people, the person receiving it and the person delivering it. The person receiving it is wide awake and they're digging up this stuff and clearing it out using an exact 10-step procedure on each incident. Okay, so I want to show you the workshops that I've put together to show you a bit more about this. Okay, so what I've prepared is I've prepared 3 workshops called Dianetics Explained, which I would love you to join me for. The first one is happening this coming Friday, the 15th of July. They are on 8 to 9 p.m. on Zoom. There are 3 workshops, okay? First one, the mystery of the mind. So this module, I'm going to go over why it is that we make certain decisions and how do you know if you're making the correct decision? How do you know if you're making the correct decision? What is the mind? And what is everybody on this earth trying to do? What are we all trying to do? Okay, module 2. The mother of all unwanted thoughts. Now this is where we go deep into the nastiness of nasty. I mean, it's a horrible way for me to be promoting this particular webinar, but we're really going to dig in here to highlight the one thing that starts off the whole chain of baggage that you accumulate in your reactive mind. And we'll be giving you a little demo of that too. Part 3, The effect of emotional trauma and loss. People say to me sometimes, listen, Vincent, everybody loses people, and sure, you know what? You just get over it in time. And it's all very poetically said, and it's fine. And yes, people are able to move on in life, but unfortunately, losses don't just go away, they stick. And they can have a massive impact on people. If you think that the losses that you've had in your past are gone and they're never going to affect you again, I can assure you, when you listen to this webinar, you learn exactly how they do affect a person in life. Now, these webinars are done one after the other. So if you can't attend one, you can catch it the next time around. All right? But I prefer it if you can be there live with me on all 3 ones if you can. Okay? Now, as I mentioned, they are based on the book. So together with the webinar is the book. Okay? So with the workshops, the book is sent to you. If you're not a book reader, it's the Dynetics DVD, which is a 2-set DVD, 32 mini movies, 4.5 hours long, explains all the basics. So like on the modules, I can only cover a certain few key things with you, and I'll only be covering 3 major things, all right? But they're important to know about. The rest of it is explained in the book, and it contains everything. So while you're on the workshops, you'll be reading the book or watching the DVD or on your computer or whatever. Okay, now the cost of the workshops is €30. But if you enroll on it before 9:30 tonight, and there's going to be a link going up shortly, it's €20. And plus, if you do it tonight before 9:30, I'm also going to include this book on communication. And this communication booklet is absolutely brilliant. And it is a practical book which gives you practical exercises that you can do with a friend or a family member to improve the major aspects of communication that you need to know about and you need to drill and practice. So it's a communication booklet. It's practical, it's easy to understand, and if you enroll on it tonight before 9:30, that's going to be included for you. And obviously the book and the DVD and this booklet are sent out with free shipping, so you don't have to pay for shipping. Okay, so to summarize it, the €20 includes the 3 workshops and the book, the Dynetics book or the Dynetics DVD, set of 2, plus the communication booklet, and it's sent to you with free shipping. So the link has gone up there. Mandeep has popped it in for me. Now, I want to summarize this lecture before we wrap up, okay? And then I'm going to open for any questions. Anybody who wants to leave after that point, it's grand. I'll be open for any questions that anybody has, okay? Self-confidence is developed through improving your knowledge, practice, and experience in whatever area you want to be confident in. It's improved by improving your communication skills, and those are absolutely vital. You need those. Everybody needs good communication skills. Suppression, by learning how to detect people who put you down directly or indirectly and knowing how to handle them, it's going to stabilize your confidence, okay? And there's courses that we do in all those 3 things. However, the thing that ruins all those is this reactive mind that you are carrying around. It's a push-button part of the mind containing stuff that is buried. And the purpose of Dianetics is to unbury it and clear it up using the exact 10-step procedure and to help you to improve yourself and get you back to your real self. And we're not talking about fake confidence. We're talking about getting you back to your natural confidence that you have already. Your natural belief in yourself that you don't have to fake. Okay, I really hope you enjoyed this webinar. I want to thank you all so much for being with me tonight. I really honestly encourage every single one of you to join me on Friday night for these modules. Okay, I will take good care of you. I'll make sure you understand each section correctly. It's going to be mainly focusing on this, the reactive mind. And you're going to walk away with an increased understanding after these 3 workshops. And then what you want to do after that point is up to you. There's other courses and different things that we do, but the workshops will give you a nice base and a nice ground to help you to become stable and start off on your confidence journey. Okay, the reason I put it there as a link until 9:30 tonight is really just to encourage you to get going now, because people tend to sometimes, oh, you know what, I'll think about it, I'll let you know tomorrow and all the rest of it, and it just doesn't happen. So it's just the purpose of having a kind of a special deal before 9:30 is just to encourage you to get going. All right. So I hope you enjoyed this webinar. I'm going to semi-finish off. So for anybody who wants to leave, please, that's completely fine. Feel free to do so. I won't be offended at all. And I say thank you and have an absolutely beautiful evening. And for anybody who wants to stay, for any questions, and I'll be going over a couple of little personal stories as well, please feel free to stay along for the last little section of the webinar. Okay, so for anybody who wants to leave, thank you so much. I would say good night to you. Don't worry, I won't be offended if you leave. It'll be fine. I really appreciate you being here and giving me your time. And for anybody who's, so that's that. Pause, start, new section. Okay. That's like me trying to, I don't know, do 2 episodes in the one. So now, if anybody has any questions, please do not hesitate to pop them into the chat. I'll do my best to answer every single question that you have to the best of my ability. You can ask me any questions about the seminar, sorry, the webinar I did tonight, or about the modules, or about your personal circumstance, or anything that you didn't understand that I went over for you tonight. And look, obviously I have these workshops which I want you to enroll on. I really do. And if all they did was help you to reach a higher level of confidence in that area that you're not confident in, I think it would be worth it, right? And if all it did was help you to recover from this underneath nagging doubt of yourself, I think that would be worth it as well. Okay, so I hope that helps for all of you. Let me just see if there's any questions coming in. Audrey, Audrey, great, looking forward to seeing you too at the webinar. It's excellent. Great, Lorraine, glad you liked it. Nadia, you are very welcome. Mbule, I'm glad you liked it. Thank you so much for being here. Galaxy A51. I love calling you Galaxy A51, whoever you are. I don't know who you are, but yeah, it's great. As the seminar is Friday, just speaking for myself, I wouldn't have enough time to read or review material. Okay, just to answer that point for you, the modules are separate units. You don't have to have read the book or be reading it to attend the modules. All right? Some people, like the book is going to be sent to you, and I would prefer if you read it, but you don't have to have read the book or the materials to understand this stuff, okay? The module is going to be between 8 to 9 on a Friday. It's going to be sharp start and sharp finish. It's going to go over some very basic things. Very basic things, even more basic than I've gone over tonight, but very important things to know for the future. And so each module is designed around one thing. So yeah, we keep it simple, and I'll be available by email. You'll have our email address. If you have any questions after that module and you don't understand, you can always email me and I'll personally answer your questions. Nuala, thank you so much. Good to finally meet you, Nuala. Okay, good. It's funny when I have some people put their phone numbers there and I just don't know if it's a male, female, or wherever it is. Okay, so I hope that helped, Nuala. Look, I think you should, if you can put the time aside to do it, then please do, because it's an investment in yourself. It's worth it. And yeah, and it's a good price as well. It's not much really to be paying for it, because you get the book and everything with it. It's good, you know. So I hope you come along and join us for that. Let's see what else. And Mohammed, oh, hang on, Susan, you're welcome. Mohammed, you are very, very welcome. Thank you so much. Susanna, yes, thank you. And yes, thank you very much. Okay, so if anybody has any questions there, pop them in. I'm going to pause for a moment, take a drink, close my eyes, open my eyes, see if there's any questions. And if there's no questions, then I'll tell you a quick story and then we'll wrap up. Okay? Right. Okay, close my eyes, open them, no questions. Okay, anyway, it doesn't matter. If you don't have any questions, it's okay. So Mohammed and Sean, you're the last one standing. So before we wrap up, I'll just tell you a little story about myself. In 1992, I was in college in Dublin. I studied personnel management as part of the business studies degree course. And in the summer, because everybody in college goes away for the summer to work elsewhere to other countries, I decided to go to Germany. Don't ask me why I picked Germany, I don't know. But in Germany, I went looking for work and so forth, just to go there. But one thing that I had inside was a very strong desire to help other people. I was looking for something that could help people I loved and people in general, because I want to see people doing well. I've always wanted to see people happy and doing well. Maybe as a teenager, I went through a phase of I don't care about anybody, but I think every teenager goes through that. But I came across this book in Munich in Germany, and I used it to help other people. Okay, great. That's brilliant. I used it to help other people, not myself. Let me just... Nuala, is it possible to get modules via online links? DVD, don't have one. Yeah, okay. Understood. Nuala, I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm sorry to interrupt the... I just realized, because I ignored Galaxy A51. I'm sorry. Sorry to interrupt my story. I need to answer this question because I don't want to keep anybody waiting. Mandeep, if you send a message to Mandeep Nuala, she will work out a solution with you. Okay, for that in some ways, because she's managing the webinar tonight. Normally we deliver them live. A DVD, yes, it's the book is not on like in digital format, and I believe, don't quote me on this, because these things get copied and altered and all sorts of stuff, and we just want to keep the actual technology that's in here pure and exactly as it is. So if you're not a book reader, the DVD would be your next option. There is also an audiobook which you can get, where you can listen to it in the car. You can actually listen to the book. So that is an option as well. I think it might be slightly more expensive, but it's available. The DVD, if you have a computer, although now a lot of computers don't have DVD players, but anyway, if you have a laptop with a DVD section, then you'll be able to play it. Okay? Or an Xbox even. If you have an Xbox or a PlayStation, you could probably play the DVD in that. Or if you know someone who has a PlayStation or an Xbox, you can get that off them, borrow it off them. All right? So there are options. Okay? In any event, Nuala, Mandeep will be able to help you out with that particular question. All right? Now, I'm going to go back to my story. 1992, Munich in Germany. I got this stuff, fascinated, loved it, looking for self-improvement stuff, love self-improvement. All right? You're welcome, Nuala. Yeah, audio is good. Audio is good. It's so handy these days. Just listen to the book. I mean, it's amazing. Helping other people, and I helped a lot of people with this subject. All right? I helped a lot of people, and I've seen people become happy again, become themselves again, and clear up a lot of stress and pain. And look, I'm not going to say to you that a Dianetics session is not tough. It can be tough sometimes, but coming out the other side, a person is fresh and clear thinking and much happier, much more being themselves because they've dealt with the past. So after using this on others, and you can call me a chicken if you like, after testing it on others first, I decided it was time to give it a go myself. And so I received some Dianetics therapy myself. And I thought, you know what, I'm just doing this because I better just do it. It might help me in some way, shape, or form. And what I got was 1,000,000 times more than I expected. I uncovered stuff about myself that I didn't even remember, but did actually happen to me. You would be amazed the things that I remembered, which I thought weren't affecting me, but in actual fact were, because when I addressed them using the techniques in the book, or somebody else doing them with me, it just created such a huge change for me in terms of my own opinion of myself, my own ability to communicate, my own confidence in myself. So it made a massive difference. And so it sealed the deal for me. I've been promoting Dianetics ever since. I've been at Cork many times doing mind, body, spirit shows around the place. And look, this is different. This is different. You don't, like, people want to improve. But when you present something like this to people, sometimes they're like a bit scared of it or whatever. What is it? Is it this or that? The only advice I can give you, if you haven't already decided, you know what, I'm going to go for it, give it a shot. What's the worst that could happen is that you get some good data to help you in life. And the point of the 3 workshops is to keep it simple and to keep it to a situation where at the end of it, you'll at least have got some good knowledge. And knowledge creates stability. And when you've got stability, then you can go, okay, you know what? I'm either going to take this forward or I'm not. And it's going to kind of empower you. I don't like that word. Improve your ability to make your own decisions about what you want to do in your life. All right? That's what it's going to do. It's going to help you with that. Okay. So, folks, I think we'll wrap up there. I didn't see any more questions coming in. If you do, you can sneak in a quick question towards the end. The chat is going to stay open until 9:30, and the link will be there. But little old me won't, right? So, thank you so much for staying with me till the end. The diehards, Mohammed, Nuala, and Sean, thank you so much for being here with me. I hope you enjoyed this webinar. I am really grateful that you gave me your time tonight. And I wish you all an absolutely beautiful evening. And I hope to see you all at the modules this coming Friday. And we'll have a chat then. And I can tell you a lot more. Okay. Good night to you all. And thanks, Sean. And you're welcome, Nuala. Okay? Bye for now.